Zhilei Zhang made incredible sacrifices to pursue his dreams, but everything could have fallen apart if it wasn't for a unique connection and an even more unique opportunity. Hobbies. The big man stays busy when he isn't knocking people out in the ring. His trainer, Sean George, introduced him to recreational shooting a few years ago. Coincidentally, Kurt Lee, his co-manager, translator, and turned out a part-time range safety officer, and he was able to show Zhang the ropes. Guns were never Zhang's thing, but he quickly fell in love with shooting. Although the very first time he pulled a trigger, his hands were shaking. But there was something about the simplicity of it. Now Zhang considers recreational shooting to be soothing. He goes a couple of times a month and fires a box of bullets at paper targets hanging 25 feet away. Speaking of bullets, his wife, Jiang Huan, is a retired starting pitcher for the Henan Provincial Softball team. They met in 1998, started dating in 2000, and married in December 2006. When he isn't busy with family life, you can catch him sipping on his favorite tea, Longjing tea. However, he was forced to limit his tea intake after he was hospitalized and diagnosed with iron deficiency anemia, high enzyme levels, low-level renal failure, electrolyte disorder, liver dysfunction, and severe dehydration, which his heavy intake of tea was attributed to be one of the factors. Instead, he keeps his mind busy by building cameras, barbecue grills, and car washing equipment. Safe to say that Zhang is a pretty unique guy. His upbringing was equally as strange. Growing up, his first sporting love was wildly different from boxing. Zhang isn't sure where his size comes from. Both his parents were under 6 feet. His brother and sister are as well. He's heard stories about his great-grandfather being big, but can't say for certain. He has joked around saying that maybe he had some kind of genetic mutation that allowed him to grow to be 6'6". But the way he hits is definitely otherworldly. Zhang grew up in Shenkui, a rural country that sits on the line between Henan and Anhui in the eastern part of the country. He wasn't athletically gifted. He wasn't so athletically inclined either. When he was 12, his father, concerned about his weight, suggested that Zhang try sports. Kayaking was popular and Zhang enjoyed doing it. However, he was already 6'1" and weighed 190 pounds. He simply wasn't built for kayaking. It was actually his kayaking coach who suggested that he should try his luck in boxing. Zhang didn't know anything about boxing. China Central Television only showed fights on Sunday mornings and Zhang wasn't watching. But Zhang felt something inside him stir at the thought of boxing. After 2 weeks of training, he sparred with a provincial champion. And well, Zhang can explain what happened next. I beat the crap out of him. He was bleeding all over his face. That was when I realized I was actually pretty good. Some people, well, they're just simply born to be fighters. However, his journey would come with plenty of lows. Boxing journey. He made several big sacrifices for his dream. In 1998, Zhang moved to Zhengzhou, the site of a provincial training center. Success followed as he won a silver medal at the 2004 University Championships, a bronze at the World Championships in 2007. He also claimed his silver medal at the Beijing Olympics. He began studying not just boxing, but also boxers like Mike Tyson, Evander Holyfield, and Lennox Lewis. By studying the greats, he upgraded his mental game. Great heavyweights, when they fight into the last couple of rounds, they're all gassed out, but they are still throwing punches. At the end of the fight, it's all mental. That's when you see a fighting spirit. Shortly after the Olympics, Chinese boxers didn't typically turn pro because they would end up losing a lot of government support and benefits. However, Zhang wanted more than government support. In the quarterfinals of the 2012 London Olympics, Zhang lost to Anthony Joshua. A year later, after winning a championship at the National Games of China, Zhang retired from the national team at age 30, laying his jersey in the center of the ring after his final fight. Then it was off to New Jersey, but not before he decided to leave his wife and son in China. However, this big move came with some disastrous results. His original opponent for his pro debut fell out a week before the fight. His replacement went down 9 seconds into the first round. A few months after Zhang's debut, Dynasty Boxing ran out of money. Zhang joined Rock Nation and continued to fight low-profile shows. When he did get opportunities, he stumbled. In 2015, Zhang faced Juan Good and was knocked down in the 4th round, narrowly squeezing out a decision. After that, he needed to look at himself in the mirror and realize he wasn't training properly. His diet was off, and he wasn't practicing proper habits. He was at a crossroads. What he decided next would either make him or break him. Professional accomplishments. Zhang found his home in the strangest of places. In 2009, the Chinese national boxing team began making sporadic trips to the U.S. for training camps. Dynasty Boxing negotiated with the Chinese government to turn a handful of fighters pro, including Zhang, and bring them to the United States. Since moving to the United States in 2014, Zhang rarely visited his parents, wife, and son in China because he had to reapply working visa to the U.S., Schengen Arena, or the UK for each re-entry. In fact, after a match in China, he got a visa and was stuck there for 10 months between October 2018 and July 2019 and missed a match with Andrei Rudenko. This even led to him having to sell his car so he could pay the bills. Zhang had a mediocre start to his pro career, and he was no spring chicken either. So how did he turn his career around? The first blessing was linking up with his trainer, Sean George. From afar, George had always noted that Zhang wasn't developing at the rate he should have been. He could tell that there was no plan behind him. He couldn't see visible signs of improvement. The only objective seemed to be to lard Zhang's record with enough warm bodies until one of the top heavyweights would pay a premium to face him. Bluntly put, George felt that the boxing community viewed Zhang as a gimmick fight. He wanted to change all of that. Back in Jersey, he worked to fine-tune Zhang's skills, going over the basics like chin tucked lower and hands held higher. This type of coaching was what was missing. Zhang went on to win 11 straight fights between 2016 and 2020. However, that is when he faced even more adversity. Not only did he get a draw against Jerry Forrest, but he lost his very first professional fight against Filip Hrgović in 2022. A loss in boxing is a big deal, and it looked as if Zhang had reached his peace. He was then set up to face Olympic silver medalist Joyce, underdog. But Zhang shook up the world when he battered Joyce over 6 rounds until the referee mercifully stopped the fight. The two rematched 5 months later, despite Zhang telling Joyce that he should rest up some more. Joyce should have heeded his advice at this time, as Joyce wouldn't even last a full 3 rounds before he was knocked out cold by Zhang. In doing so, Zhang has firmly established himself as a player in the heavyweight division. But once again, with the highs came the lows. He wasn't able to capitalize on his epic wins as he dropped a decision to Joseph Parker and lost the WBO interim heavyweight title. However, an opportunity at redemption came when he was matched up with the heavy-hitting superstar Deontay Wilder. This opportunity was incredibly rare, as not many fighters lose and then find themselves in an even bigger fight. Zhang knew he had to make the most of it because it could be his last shot at greatness. Once again, Zhang shocked everyone when he knocked out the knockout artist in the 5th round and set himself up for several more paydays. And speaking of payouts, Zhang has been doing quite well for himself in recent years. Paydays. He is a bona fide superstar. Against Joyce, $600,000. Against Joseph Parker, despite losing the bout, Zhang pocketed somewhere between $2 to $3 million because he was the interim champ and his popularity was surging. However, even though he lost to Parker, he still earned a respectable amount for his fight against Wilder. Thanks to the Saudi investment in boxing, Zhang took home $5 million and could add another $2.5 million on top of that, depending on how well the pay-per-view did. So it is safe to say his risk of turning pro paid off.